Hey everyone, it is the match preview show. Liverpool are taking on Southampton in the FA Cup 5th round on Wednesday night. Well, Liverpool Football Club are. There'll probably be somewhere between 50 and 60,000 Liverpool fans in the ground. There will be 11 people in red shirts. Who they will be, we have no idea whatsoever. Jurgen Klopp is he finished yet, Aaron? He's just about finished his press conference as we do this. So we've got a few updates from the press conference, which we'll discuss, that have kind of moved this on fractionally from when we had this discussion on the podcast on yesterday. Anyway, I'm joined by Chloe and Dan for this one. Shall we see what we've put together from the press conference?
Not a lot. I'm none the wiser, to be honest.
So
you use the word fractionally there, and that's doing a lot of heavy lifting, to be honest, Paul.
Yep. Paul Gorst, Jurgen Klopp says there is no time scale on Thiago's recovery. I don't know. A couple of things he has to do from a medical point of view, and I don't know if it will mean he can play again this season. Can't say more about it. So we had a bit about Thiago. We were like, ooh, some Thiago news. The Thiago news is there's no Thiago news. He's very much injured and can't guarantee whether he'll play a game for Liverpool, which is just so I'm sadder about that than I should be. I just want one more Thiago performance in front of me with my own eyes before he leaves. That's all I ask.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's one of the great shames of this season, and if truth be known, like Thiago's time at Liverpool. But don't get me wrong, he's had some incredible cameos, some incredible moments during his spell here, and I've absolutely adored watching him. He's one of them footballers, I always say it, like he'd pay the admission fee just to watch him kick a ball around the pitch. He's that good, he's that aesthetically pleasing, but unfortunately we haven't seen anywhere near enough of him because injuries, I wouldn't say they plagued his career full stop, but he kind of always had them. But I feel like the Premier League and playing in a Jurgen Klopp midfield has just really been a little bit too much toll on his body, I think it's fair to say. But ultimately it is a great shame that he looks like he's gonna leave the club at the end of the season, and we won't have seen anywhere near enough of him for me.
Yeah, until he ends up as Zabi's assistant manager, of course, which I'd be all in on. Chloe, Stefan Bajcetic is gaining fitness. He's pain-free, but hasn't yet been given the light to resume training. That's something we talked about him very, very briefly on the podcast. You know, I think a lot of eyes were on Thiago and his return the other week, and there's a lot of excitement around it. But like, it's almost Bajcetic's almost become the forgotten man. You know, seeing him in the stands, seeing him in that homegrown photo that Trent put up, it was just a lovely sight to see him. And he's now basically the biggest free hit of our midfield for the rest of the season. If we can get him back at some point, that would be absolutely magic.
Yeah, it'd be absolutely brilliant, especially in the Europa League. That's where he'd really get his chance. And also, it's another midfielder that we crucially need right now. I mean, we've just lost Ryan Gravenberch. We were already on the bare bones of our midfield. And Stefan Bajcetic is a boss footballer. I think we forget how good he was, last season when we were very much looking for little positives. Well, he was a massive positive. And yeah, to be fair, at least he's getting back to fitness. We knew nothing of what Stefan Bajcetic was doing. We didn't know his time frame or anything. And I think it was said back at the end of Feb, well, we're kind of getting there now. So hopefully he can become another body that we can just use. And also, it's very important for his development. We know he's a boss footballer. Yeah. We know he's got the calmness and the composure. And also, we forget that he can also play right back if needed. Yeah. I don't want him playing centre back, but good Christ, I'd play him centre back tomorrow if possible at this point. So yeah, that is a little boost that we can have, and hopefully an extra body for the rest of the season. That's massive.
I think it's also when you look at like Kate Gordon, and we'll talk about him when we're trying to figure out what we're going to do for this game, Dan. But and we saw it with Ryan Brewster before. Young players, when they miss too much development, sometimes you get a window of opportunity, and that's actually your opportunity to get into a team, but also actually in terms of whether you can reach your ceiling as a footballer. And look, I don't want to, I don't want to get too fearful around the future of Bajcetic at this stage because there's nothing to indicate that's the case. But we have seen it happen at times with young lads when they have stunted development.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, he's going to need to start playing footy against soon. Otherwise that conversation does become a very real possibility. And it's fascinating because obviously Chloe references there how good he was last season, and that just wasn't sort of compared to how the season was going. He was genuinely brilliant in some big games as well with it. So it's been a great shame that we haven't been able to sort of see him develop and see him kick on from that, because obviously injuries have definitely had a big old impact on his campaign. But I think getting any sort of glimpse of him towards the back end of the season would be a massive boost. If he can take some minutes, take a bit of the pressure off some of the other lads as well, that would be really important. But I think it's, like I say, more for his sake than anything else. It's absolutely critical that he does get back to playing a little part and he can have a full pre-season and a good old run at it for next year. That's what feels like the most important, because as you say, and it's interesting. So we spoke a lot, rightly so, about Conor Bradley and Joel Quansah this season, how incredible they've been pretty much since day dot. Stefan Bajcetic was that last year. Like, he waltzed into the team, not like he'd been doing it for 5-10 years. So we've got a real talent on our hands. We just need to see it again.
If Stefan Bajcetic's only legacy is that he showed Jurgen Klopp that you're better off putting young, energetic players in than old, slow ones, then that'll be a massive thing for the future of the football club. You touched on Gravenberch there, Chloe. So Ryan Gravenberch, again, according to Jurgen Klopp, is not available. Ligament injury, could have been much worse, but bad enough that he's out for this game. Next game, we will see. I mean, it was pretty obvious he was going to miss this one. You just got to look at how badly his ankle was turned by that Caicedo tackle, coming together, however you want to say it, incident. It's a real pity because, we've been saying prior to the final, this was his chance now. And it wasn't a chance that he's necessarily engineered himself, but it was a chance that was thrust upon him. And yeah, you feel desperately unlucky for him. Fingers crossed it isn't more than a week or so out for him.
Yeah, I think Jurgen said he won't make this one, he won't make the next one, which is Forest on the weekend.
I guess that is literally what I just said.
But the thing is he actually said he didn't know when he'd be available to come back.
Yeah.
He said it was just the kind of thing that you have to see after those 2 games where he's up to. And it's devastating for him because this was his way into the side. Yeah. And he hadn't done too badly. He was still growing into it. And I actually thought him pressing with that midfield against Chelsea was really good over the weekend. And it's just our luck, isn't it? It's his luck as well. He finally has a run of games where you can really see him starting pretty much every one. And it's a bad tackle. It's a bad challenge from Caicedo, and he's gone over on his ankle. But hopefully, with a little bit of rest and stuff, we can get him back as soon as possible. And also, it's important that other players come back in that time as well, because by the time he comes back, you don't want to just lob him back into the starting 11 again. You want to give time for these players to come back in and test it out, which we couldn't do with the likes of Szoboszlai or Trent. And look what happened to those two. So yeah, a massive miss for Liverpool, a massive hit for Ryan Gravenberch, but he's young enough that he'll be able to bounce back from it. He'll get more opportunities.
Little before you don't look at the screen, because you'd have a temptation to cheat here. I want you to name the 5, and it's only 5 Liverpool players who've made more appearances for Liverpool this season than Ryan Gravenberch.
Virgil van Dijk.
Alisson Becker.
Incorrect.
What?
Mo Salah.
They haven't played more than Ryan Gravenberch.
That's true.
Right, so he...
Alexis McAllister.
Luis Diaz is one. Yeah. Alexis McAllister is not.
It's Luis Diaz. Joe Gomez.
Joe Gomez is correct. Has played 4 more appearances than Ryan Gravenberch.
Okay.
Szoboszlai, he was ever present for a while, but he's missed a bit now.
Nope.
Okay.
Significant. Well, actually, no, 3 games less than.
Okay.
How long has Darwin Núñez been injured for?
He's been in and out. It's probably Darwin.
Darwin has more appearances than any other Liverpool player this season.
Okay, there's 2 more there apparently.
Harvey Elliott.
Harvey Elliott, correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is even more shocking than
Cody Gakpo.
Okay. Cody Gakpo has made the 2nd most appearances of any Liverpool player this season. Now, this is appearances. This isn't starts. This isn't minutes played. Yeah. Out of interest, I'll just shuffle this so we can see by minutes. Gravenberch is way down on the minutes, significantly further down the squad. But yeah, interesting one, and it goes to show that he's been integrated into the side, but he's been a regular part of Jurgen Klopp's plans all season long. So as much as we can look to, it's a big miss not having your Salahs and your Trents and what have you, but your squad, your season is constructed around the other lads. Particularly our approach this season is very much hinged upon who you're bringing on, who you're bringing off, and how you rotate and what you've got. So yeah, I just thought it was really, really interesting. I mean, it obviously speaks to, I think Darwin Núñez is obviously massive to how Liverpool are playing. The Cody one shocked me, and then Gravenberch. I would not have had Gravenberch anywhere like that.
It's because we haven't seen lots of him, because you're right, the minutes point is the point, because you've not seen him play football loads and loads and loads. You automatically assume he hasn't featured that much, but he's featured a hell of a lot. It's just not necessarily in big chunks. I doubt he's completed many 90s, maybe 1 or 2, I imagine, along that way.
He's played the
possibly
16th most minutes of any Liverpool player. So, like, you know, he's very much in the squad amongst that.
Because a bit of a hangover from his lack of 90 minutes last year at Bayern Munich that meant early doors he couldn't get through 90 minutes of Liverpool, essentially.
It equates to, actually, his minutes equates to 17.3 90s, which is still not bad, but you consider Virgil van Dijk as his minutes, he's got like 1,000 more minutes on the pitch, basically, than him, which is there's that. There we go, that filled a little bit of time, didn't it? Well done, everyone. We've got a couple of quotes off some of the bigger names. So Jurgen Klopp said, Dom, Darwin, Mo, we have to see what we can do today. Wataru got a proper knock. I wouldn't say the situation is much improved. I guess you actually watched the press conference. Is that in reference to Endo, the situation is much improved? Do we think, or just in general?
To all of the injuries, because he was asked about, you know, if even though you've lost Ryan Gravenberch, is there at least some positivity that some of the lads can help you out? And he said, no, it's not improved enough for me to say yeah. But he obviously went on to say that famous quote where, as long as we have 11 players, we'll give it absolutely everything. So yeah, that's not great. I was hoping that at least, you know, a couple of them could have made the bench, you know, ahead. I remember him saying, we're looking at that Nottingham Forest game, but like, I just thought maybe a couple of them could have got 15, 20 minutes in this game, but evidently it looks like he once again said touch and go with them. So, and I thought that was a little bit positive last midweek, and he didn't feature at all. He's not going to risk them, is he? Let's be perfectly honest. But even if we can get one of them on the bench, that would be a big boost for us ahead of the weekend.
Paul Gorst, another Klopp quote, says, the only problem is the lack of recovery time. The boys love playing, digging incredibly deep to grind out results. It's a strange one. We all know how the world is. Liverpool versus Southampton, people say we're favourites, but we need to find a competitive team. And that's what we're saying there, really, is that we've been here before, and for a variety of different circumstances. You know, we always refer to that Aston Villa League Cup game. That was when the senior boys were all over in Qatar. We then have the Shrewsbury game where there's a cup replay, and it's meant to be the mid-season or the winter break. So Klopp goes, no, there's no way I'm giving that up. So sends all the senior players off on holiday, and again, a youthful team, like a very Curtis Jones-led team, did the business at Anfield with that one, with James Milner watching on from the just behind the dugout, quite famously. But this could be another similar one where, you know, you've got to be careful because you can't be seen to be disrespecting the competition. Liverpool are, you know, Jurgen Klopp is a superstitious man. All footballers sort of are. You'll be aware of the importance of trying to maintain some sort of flow to the season. No one wants to lose and derail what you're doing. No one wants to give up. I don't think anyone will want to give up on the notion of a quadruple, but it will boil down to he's had to take calculated risks in the last few weeks on certain footballers, and they've not worked. Because in fact, there's a comment here actually, which I think is relevant. Actually, it's Magpie96 who said, "I think he means to say sack, but sack the bloody medical department. When are we going to question them?" But the thing is, I don't even think that's not even an issue for me. It's because you look at how many are just freak injuries for a start.
Thiago Shota.
Someone landed on. Gravenberch is in a similar kind of boat. Really,
Curtis Jones is not too dissimilar in that regard as well. But actually, let's use Salah as an example. Salah gets injured while he's on international duty with Egypt, and then unfortunately, because of circumstances, we did make a wrong decision ultimately. You know, it's easy to say now. He got more minutes than he should have got the other week, and that's what's then set him back. So yeah, it's a mad one where that Forest game is there's no doubt in any of our minds. I don't think that Forest is the one. You want to get. We just need to get to Man City a point ahead of them at worst. That's like our worst case scenario, really. Because if you need a win against City, I think you're asking a lot. But if you can get to that game knowing that a draw keeps you above Manchester City, then that is as close to optimal as you're going to get, I think. And I don't think he'll want to run the risk of that. But I mean, it's not like he's going to put like a third choice goalie in. I don't think he's going to put. It's not like we had this on the chat on the podcast, and there's not many young centre halves who seem to be on the fringes of it who are likely to get a look at in this. Even like the fullback, we've got plenty of fullbacks mercifully.
Yeah.
But like Chambers has gone out on loan, Beck's gone back out on loan. So there's not loads of additional options other than what we know about right now.
No, not necessarily. I think the centre half problem in so much that they're very young. Like they're Trey and Yoni young. It's Marvin Nallo and Carter Pinnington, and they're very good, very talented, but they are 16, 17-year-old lads. Like they're not even 18, 19 like your Kumas is and your Jayden Nans necessarily. So that's a big old leap. In terms of that's a bit, and they've not really been thrust into first team training yet. We haven't seen them on any benches and stuff like that. So to go from not really being involved to starting the game feels. I mean, Billy Comesio did something similar quite a few years back now, but I don't see it personally. Comesio again was a couple of years more advanced than that, so I don't really see it. I think left back wise, if we needed someone there, Callum Scanlon will be an option, but I don't think that's where we are struggling necessarily. It seems to be the further end of the pitch really in terms of the attacking department. So there isn't a lot we can do. I think it'll just be a mixture of what we've seen at the weekend, a smattering of experience dotted around the team where necessary. Maybe you can get sort of one experienced lad in almost every department. That might be a way to go about it. If you get maybe a McAllister in the midfield, a Gakpo up top, and a Van Dijk or Canate at the back, who knows? We might be able to get through.
Well, let's do that then, because the debate on Monday was whether Virgil's involved. Is he just on the bench? Does he start? And I maintained at the time that he really just needs to rock up and be on the bench because we've got enough to cover him and he gets to be the captain by just being present. But I do wonder whether this is something where he might need to go a little bit deeper here and just get himself on the pitch because, you've got to look at what your spine could potentially be. If you've got no Endo in there, McAllister probably means he'll be drafted in as a result. I don't know who, Gakpo probably up front. You might need someone of Virgil van Dijk's status in there just to help sort of carry the team almost.
You might, but also at the same time, it's are you willing to risk that? Are you willing to, we saw what happened to him last season in terms of him saying, I played too many games the season prior, like I couldn't keep up. Yeah. You don't want to do that again because once again, we all know that Nottingham Forest game is the bigger game this weekend. We need him for that. We need him for the rest of the season. And, you've got a very senior centre-half in Joe Gomez. He's just not played centre-half this season that often. And Conor Bradley got taken off in the 70th minute, which means I'd assume he could go again and he's one of your first subs off for the weekend. Joe Gomez, you can, like you said there, with Verge on the bench, even if it's 15, 20 minutes that you have to put him on for. Maybe Joe Gomez is at centre-half. You've got Andy Robertson, who will most likely not start the game. It'll be Costas. Yeah. But he's, Robbo will at least be on the bench, and Costas is another senior player. He's captain. So, there are some senior lads in that defence. And once again, McAllister got taken off. I mean, he didn't get taken off early, but we can try and push him again if needed. But Virgil van Dijk is one where I just feel like at the moment in time with how, we are up top, keeping clean sheets is the most important thing in the football games right now, and to go and do that against Nottingham Forest, to go and do that against Manchester City, to go and do that against these upcoming teams that we've got in the Premier League, to not have Virgil van Dijk as your centre half there because you've risked him this game's a bit mad.
Well, the mad thing is, then this one we had this conversation. I think it must have been post-match stuff. In fact, it was when we was player ratings. We were talking about Kelleher. We didn't feel that if that was a side that could have clawed a game back if it had gone behind.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wonder whether there's a little bit of this, because I'm thinking about the Virgil thing. Do you want him to see a game out, or do you want him to start a game strong? Let's say I don't want Virgil necessarily playing 90 if that's the case. But I'm edging more towards just start him and bring him off, and that way you get to Konate. We're a little concerned about Konate. He played up until half time in extra time. Maybe you're rotating Konate and Van Dijk for this a little bit, and that way give Verge 60 minutes. And just so you can hopefully keep it firm, because even if it's just 0-0 at that point, keep us in the game. Can the crowd suck one in? Can we, can we get one from a set piece, a bit like the cup final? Can we create a little bit of like a manic Anfield atmosphere to kind of help get us over the line? And that's where something with Van Dijk, Konate, Diddle might actually be the answer.
Yeah, it's definitely an option, I would say. I'm a lot less sort of concerned or alarmed by the defence. I think you could easily name a back four of Bradley, Quansah, Gomez and Tsimikas and kind of be very content with that. And that should be enough. And, I don't want to sort of go too early on this, but that should be enough to keep the back door closed, because no doubt about it, Liverpool, whilst we're sort of trying to navigate and muddle through this game and possibly Forest, and hopefully the pitch is a little bit better by the Man City game in terms of availability, but for the next game or two at least, the priority is going to shift ever so slightly, and it is going to be a case of keeping the back door shut. The game plan's got to be, let's stay solid, and then we might try and nick on with a bit of quality, a little bit of magic, a set pieces you mentioned up the other end, and then we can just play from there essentially, because chasing games and doing what we've done all season without the bench power that we've had feels very, very difficult. So I think keeping defensively sound and solid is the most important thing right now. And if it has to be Van Dijk and Konate doing a 60-30 split type thing, then sound. But for me personally, I think for this game, not necessarily what's to come, I think you can name that back four that I've just mentioned and be quite content with it.
I totally agree. It's more, I think, that thing of it's the order of having someone like Van Dijk in there and what that transmits to the rest of the squad. It's not a case of, because actually,
and his goal scoring prowess at the minute.
Well, 100%. Well, Chloe referenced it before, but the Klopp quote here when he says, "When I get all the information, I can look into their eyes and see who's ready, and then I will make the lineup." I hope it will be a decent lineup. Let me say it like this: what an atmosphere can do. We have realised a few times it would be great if we could have a special one, and that's the thing. Sometimes of like, I don't think there'll be any shortage of players who'll want to play, because mainly, you know why? Because there's so many lads who didn't get to play in that final, who, like, that might be the only final we get to. So you'll want to go and get another one and the ones who played in it will want to experience that again. And the ones who didn't will want to be there, and the ones who did will want to give it to the ones who weren't as well. And I wonder whether there's a little bit of, you could just go, "Oh, I'm sorry, Gaffer, I'm just not feeling it today. Let the kids take this one." Well, you're throwing the kids to the wolves by your own almost, I don't want to say being a shit house, but in Jurgen Klopp's eyes, there's a little bit of that. If you're not prepared to run through brick walls, twice, 3 times a week, then you're probably not really at the right football club in the first instance. So worry about Nottingham Forest. See who's. You've got your spreadsheet of the medical department saying here's who it is. You've then got your eyeball test of him, looking at them in training. You've then probably got them, looking at them a squeeze of the arm or hand and going, "Are you ready? Are you ready?" And hopefully you can piece together something that can still make it possible, because I know we're all fans and we all live in our world of fear of, we don't want to capsize the Premier League for anything really, but until it's impossible, we should be doing everything we can to keep as many competitions going as possible. A couple more quotes, and I want to have a chat about something else in a second. But Veronica sent a super chat in early doors, and I didn't get a chance to read it. It says, "I live in Southampton, but I've supported LFC for 45 years. Well done." Wow. There's a big time difference, obviously, that all the way down there, isn't there? There's a whole 5-minute time difference from one end of the countries to the other. Not that you know it, but it is. So I can appreciate it can be difficult sometimes to follow Liverpool from afar, particularly when you land on the south coast and you could go to the beach. Just go to the beach and enjoy that. Often more clement weather than bother your arse with football. So well done, Veronica. Right, sound. One thing I wanted to discuss, because it was referenced in the press conference, Club. Klopp was asked about the potential for a parade. Now, we saw that, I think it was the Times did something on this yesterday, that Liverpool are considering doing an end of season parade, and I put a tweet out saying, and it's my firm belief in it anyway, I'd not considered it prior to this, but I would go and I watch an open top bus parade to see Jurgen Klopp off, if I'm being perfectly honest, and all the lads, regardless of how the season goes. In any normal season, you don't do it, I think, for the League Cup on its own. I think it's a starter. I think you've got to have something else. What's your take on it now? Liverpool have got the League Cup box. Jurgen Klopp's leaving at the end of the season. Is that sufficient to do a bus parade through the city of Liverpool?
Once again, if it was just a League Cup, absolutely not. You don't do a bus parade for that. But once again, I think it is the Jurgen Klopp factor. And I can't imagine it just being us playing the last game of the season in the Premier League at Anfield and then not seeing him again, not being able to thank him. So yeah, I agree with that. And hopefully it'll be more than one trophy. And then you don't even have to justify it with it's a Tarata Jurgen. But it would be great. We know the atmospheres that we can create. You know, and every single person, and not just Scousers here, are going to want to come and say thank you to Jurgen Klopp. They're going to want to send him off in the best possible way. So, yeah, I can see it. I'll be there, mainly for Jurgen Klopp more than for the trophy, to be perfectly honest. However, if we win more trophies, then it's just going to be absolutely mental. But Jurgen deserves that. He wasn't happy about it, though. In that presser, he basically was like, you better not be doing it for me. Like, I don't like that. He was like, I'm fine with a trophy parade. I will show up for a trophy parade. Yeah. But if it's just to basically come and, you know, see me goodbye, absolutely not. But I think when it actually comes and he's a bit more emotional, he'll understand the connection of why we want to.
Yeah, it's like singing his song in the middle of a football match. He doesn't mind it at the end, but like, you know, the job's not done yet for him. So he can't be thinking, he can't afford to think about what May looks like because he's got too much stuff to. He's literally got to pick an 11 for Southampton. It's causing us enough stress, let alone thinking about what happens further down the line. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, to be honest with you. I'm all for it. I think he's been so incredible since the day of arrived at this football club. He's already written himself into the folklore of this club, and what will be for me between now and the end. He's already well and truly earns and deserves a proper send-off, and if that's in the form of a trophy parade with the Carabao Cup, then so be it. I think any way you can get Jurgen Klopp on a bus going around this city in the season, that's fine by me. So yeah, I think he more than deserves it, not just for the football club but for the city at large. Really, he's been absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, whatever we can do to sort of further celebrate Jurgen Klopp's time at this club, I'm all for.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It'd be really interesting to see what the turnout would be like if it was just like we've been made up at the League Cup. We had a boss time at the weekend, no matter where we were. So I don't like the denigration of trophies as such. But yeah, if it's a one piece of silverware and a farewell to Jurgen Klopp, I would be fascinated to see how many people descend by comparison to just the Champions League, because I've seen so many replies, people saying I'm coming. I'm going to be there regardless. You know, it's an opportunity. I think they should just make it happen regardless. And now, for Jurgen, if you don't want to be a bit embarrassed, go win some more. Go win some more trophies.
Virgil, you're playing tomorrow.
yeah, definitely. The one thing that we haven't really sort of touched upon, you know, it's games are coming thick and fast now. You know, we're fighting on all sorts of forefronts. We do need to be careful with what we do. We don't need to take Southampton too lightly either. I mean, this is a team that are going okay. You know, we mentioned this on the podcast, but they're 5 points behind the automatic promotion places in the Championship at the moment. They look like they'll comfortably make the playoffs, if nothing else. But yeah, I mean, there's 4 teams right up the top there who could all on a good day have a real good go. Leicester, you'd imagine, are probably a shoe-in to get promoted in one, most likely as champions, but almost certainly in the automatics. The hope is, of course, that means that Southampton have got one eye on that. But again, it just means that this thing we have, I think Jurgen Klopp kind of referenced it. It's the Southampton, so I think automatically you look at it and go, meh, like this will be fine. But as we saw with the League Cup and as we saw with Luton, the game before that, Dan, they're going to come and give us a game where actually everyone in the stadium is going to have to be on the game. Everyone who manages to make it into a shirt and on the pitch is going to have to be on the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's far from a foregone conclusion. Anyone who thinks otherwise is going to be in for a nasty shock, I imagine, because Southampton, you know, they're the real deal in the Championship terms this season. They played some really good football. Russell Martin hasn't played in a particular type of way. It's a very Premier League brand of football, actually, to play, to be honest with you. It's get it down, or look to pass through the lines, look to pass teams to death. It's very free-flowing and possession-based. So it's not going to be too dissimilar to what we come up against more or less week in, week out in the Premier League, which might suit Liverpool and it might play into our hands a little bit, certainly at Anfield. But yeah, Southampton are absolutely no mugs, and I think they will definitely. Let's just say the game is bordering on gone or gone. He might have to take a couple of his big guns off with one eye on what's to come in Championship terms, so that might suit us potentially. Yeah. But they're only 2 or 3 weeks off the back of a 24, 25 game unbeaten run. Their form since that has just wavered ever so slightly, which kind of also suggests that maybe they need to refocus their attention on the league, which is positive as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they're no mugs, and it's going to be a difficult night's work. And I think, as you mentioned, Jurgen Klopp, Anfield, and the players are going to have to be very much bringing their A game to get the job done.
It's interesting just to cursory glance at the league and how they perform so far. Those clutching four at the top, they all score a lot of goals, but actually there's a real marked difference between Leicester and Leeds and how they defend compared to Ipswich and Southampton. You know, there's basically there's the best part of 15 to 20 goals difference in there, and that's something that, you know, is a little glimmer of hope for us, and particularly close someone like Jayden Danns, who I think even if we had more players to choose from, I'd want to see Jayden Danns involved in this game, because what we've seen in his 36 minutes of Liverpool football so far has impressed me enough that I want to see more.
Yeah, I mean, you could see that with the first, you know, real opportunity he had against Chelsea. He took on, you know, and squeezed between 2 players and got a shot on target. He's got so much confidence. He nearly scores the winner in extra time, you know, aside from a good save. So yeah, there is some exciting young talent. I want to see Bobby Clark again. I want to see McConnell again.
Yeah.
These are the lads who came on the other day, and I stood there with my hands on my head and was like, Bobby Clark's came on with, you know, 20 minutes of normal time to go plus added time in a midfield that costs 200 mil against them, and he's winning the ball back. He's got the tenacity. He was winning every single duel. So these young lads, they are exciting, and we know that they're the lads that are going to have to get us through this game because of the situation that we're in. And, you know, we saw what Liverpool fans did in extra time, is that when those lads need us, we show up, and we very much need to show up in the stands tomorrow and really help them through it. But they'll be absolutely flying with their confidence right now. So give them the ball and go and let them express themselves.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how the atmosphere develops in this one than in the game itself, because, you know, we'd said ahead of the Luton game, Klopp had said only the big atmosphere, and it didn't present itself until the game got a bit juicier as it wore on, really, and we had something to fight for. It feels like we might see a little bit of this, and this one goes back to that point. If Liverpool haven't got the firepower to blow Southampton away, which is, you know, it's questionable at this point, try and keep it tight. Try and make it a 30-minute game. Try and make it a 20-minute, make it a 10-minute chase or something, just to see if we can get something behind us. And yeah, it's going to be on. It's a big opportunity for someone like Jayden Danns, because, you know, there's some other lads haven't maybe taken their opportunities, and there's obviously persistent injuries. You know, Ben Doak's going to miss the rest of the season. Kane Gordon hasn't seemed to grasp his opportunity just yet. Feels like he's a little bit young, and I know they're wingers compared to centre forwards, of course, but, you know, a young lad he's good on the ball, he's got decent pace, he's good in the air. There'll be opportunities for him.
Yeah, I can imagine. So where Jayden Danns sort of excels, even beyond some of the ones you just mentioned there, and Ben Doak is absolutely electric pace-wise, but he's not lacking in any way, shape or form in that department. But where Jayden Danns has got the upper hand, and where he's beyond his years, really, is his physicality. He is a big old unit now. Like, he can handle himself up against centre-halves, and I think, you know, Liverpool will use him, I imagine, probably tomorrow night, and maybe even between now and the end of the season, depending on what the picture looks like with our forward lads, of course. But I think there'll be a lot of clubs keeping an eye on Jayden Danns for next season in terms of a loan out somewhere, because he's got all the qualities you'd want in your centre forward, as you mentioned there. He links up really well, he can finish, he's got a hat full of goals this season, he's strong, he's good in the air and all that sort of stuff. But more than anything, as I say, he's quick enough to handle it at senior level, and he's big and strong enough to also look after himself, which is massively important. So yeah, he's got a real big old opportunity tomorrow night. And let's be honest, the lads who've come in recent weeks have pretty much grasped every single opportunity they've been given. Connor Bradley's obviously the standout one amongst all of them, and Jayden Danns feels like he could well be the next one to me, and I'm here for it, because I love when young lads come in and really sort of take the bull by the horns and show what they're all about. And it is really exciting. Like, watching our first team regulars is boss, of course, is absolutely adore most of them, if not all of them. But when you see someone just burst onto the scene, you go, hang on, I'm really, really excited by him. I love that.
And one who's got ultimately it boils down to the physical attributes to make it, because we've seen, you know, all of us have seen in our time supporting Liverpool, and the longer you support Liverpool, the more of them you have seen, of these diminutive footballers who are good on the ball, or they might be very tenacious or whatever, with great passes, might have a good shot, but they ultimately often a bit slow, or they haven't got the physicality to compete. So when someone like that comes in, Chloe, I could see a world where Jayden Dance could continue to develop into a Liverpool first team player, because he's got a number of the raw things that you'd be looking for if you were to build one.
Yeah, he most definitely does. And also, I think on the weekend you saw exactly what it meant to him. Yeah. I mean, we speak about Harvey Elliott and him growing up as a Liverpool fan and adoring Liverpool and know what it means to play for us. But Jayden Dance knows that exactly to a T as well. I mean, the way he was belting out "You'll Never Walk Alone" to the fans as we all sang together, it was unbelievable to see. You could see the emotion of what it meant when Jurgen Klopp hugged him, and it was like he just couldn't believe it. It was like if he actually spoke, he'd break down in that hug, so he just couldn't say anything. And that's what you need as well. You know, we've got the raw talent, you've got the physicality, but you've also got the heart, the desire and the want. And he wants to win for Liverpool Football Club. He wants to play, and hopefully he can do that tomorrow night.
We're no clearer on who exactly will be available, so we'll just be repeating the conversation from the podcast, really. But the one interesting one will be the right wing slot for me, Dan.
Okay.
I'd have thought Kay Gordon would have been involved at the weekend. The fact that he's not even in the matchday squad. You mentioned obviously the wrinkle of the Thursday FA Youth Cup game, which he's not eligible to play in, whereas someone like Naoni will be. So it makes sense that they would swap positions in the matchday squad to some extent. But it boils down to who we got and where do you want them to play? Because let's say we've got a world where you've got a midfield three of James McConnell, Alexis McAllister and one more. Let's say Bobby Clark for that. If Elliott's available, does that mean Elliott goes back into the front three, which would give you a bit more seniority in your front three of, let's say, again, Gakpo, Dans, Elliott? Or if you're starting Kay Gordon on the right of the front three instead of Elliott, does that push Elliott back into midfield and give you a little bit more seniority in midfield? That feels to me like we haven't got a ton of options, but that's probably one of the limited decision points he's got at that end of the pitch.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And again, so much of it revolves around Harvey Elliott and his versatility, doesn't it? Like, we've seen him obviously be so impactful from the bench this season, but when he is available and when he can be a real key part of what we're doing, he's a key part of our decision making in terms of selection, because he can play in the forward line or indeed in midfield, he gives us that little bit of flexibility. In terms of preference, my preference would always be to get Harvey Elliott into midfield, if I'm being really, really honest. But because of the way this game's shaping up, you touched on it there, and I think Kay Gordon coming back in for this one because of the fact he can't play on Thursday night for the 18s. And I know people will look at that and go, well, what does that matter? But as a football club, that matters, let me tell you. So that will come into the thinking ever so slightly. If they can bend and flex and maybe swap out a Gordon for an Inyoni or a Kumas or whatever that looks like, then they will definitely do it. So I'd like to see Gordon in the front line, and Gakpo from the left. And I love Jayden Dance, and I really want him to play for his own sake and for my excitement's sake, but I also want to play on Thursday. But I do think he will lead the line because I think he looks like he's ready to do it for me. And I'd be that midfield you just mentioned, McAllister, Bobby Clark and James McConnell.
Yeah. It's just, I felt a lot of people talking about Elliott thing, and obviously played the 420. He looked absolutely done on Sunday, and that's going to be
he looked on midweek though as well.
Yeah,
after 90, like you couldn't. You can't play him again.
Yeah, but it is that thing of this is what being a player at a big football club is. Sometimes it is just going, and I think some of this might depend on how close our other attacking options are for the weekend. Yeah. Because if there's a strong feeling that like Szoboszlai, Salah and Nunes they're ready, they're just not going to be risked at all in this to make sure that they're definitely ready, then you just have to ask. We might have to ask someone else to go a little bit more. But I'm happy to see Gordon, and you do want something off the bench. Yeah. So Elliott on the bench wouldn't be the worst thing for us, certainly. Yes, big decisions ahead for Jurgen Klopp. What do you think he's going to do? Which 11 is he going to go with? Let us know in the comments section underneath on this one. And don't forget, we've extended our amazing offer on redmenplus.com. If you use the code FINAL, you can get 50% off a yearly captain subscription. So fill your boots on podcasts, features, documentaries and exclusive interviews over on redmenplus.com, half price for an entire year. So just box it, you get all of this season, and look, you'll even get to have all of the post celebration from us winning the League Cup again next year as well. Because look, nobody wins it more than Liverpool, so odds are it'll be us again, right? Yeah, that makes sense to me. Do drop a like on this one, and yeah, thanks so much to Chloe and to Dan and to yourselves for tuning in live on YouTube. You're the best, and we'll see you all very soon. Ta-ra. Hey, thank you so much for checking out the content today. If you want to get your name in and amongst these wonderful people, then head to redmenplus.com. Join as a Legend tier subscriber. You're going to get free merchandise codes. You're going to get in our Discord, and you're going to get your name at the end of YouTube videos. Yes, redmenplus.com, Legend tier status.